from sunny Reno, Nevada. I I wanted to talk about how I've been thinking about how I've most of my life I've been into uh, self-development and self-help. My father would listen to Earl Nightingale as we would drive around. He was on the radio a lot when I was a child, and that kind of had an impact on me. And I was probably 17, yeah, maybe 16, 17, and life's pretty good. As teenage has its issues, the teenagers. They were kind of hard, but I got into the military. I'm probably 27ish. No, well, let's go back to teenager, okay? So I was listening to someone from our church about how about how uh, we should be better people. We should grow and develop. And I'm 17, right? And um, life's not perfect, but it's good. And I'm like, that's a really good idea. That makes so much sense. But I can't think of anything wrong with me. And so I I got some of the church's magazines out. They're really good, and I started going through different things that were talking about character traits. I pulled three books out, and I got through two and a half, and I was I was so depressed. I had to put them down. I had so much work to do, and I I wrote that list, and I carried that list for a long time. And for the most part, for the most part, I didn't I didn't put a lot of effort into those things on that list. But over time, as I would look at that, I found that there was improvement. So it's really, really important that we write down who we want to be. They say that there's like, I think they said 9,000 thoughts a day. And and every cell in our body is tied together with from what we think and what we see because of the neural pathways and the way every cell is bathed in that information that comes from our minds. And so what we think about is how we behave. How we believe is how we behave. And so with 9,000 thoughts a day, are we telling ourselves this is what we want? Or are we having, thoughts that are leading us away from what we want? I can't say I don't want to do this or I don't want to do that. Let's say I don't want to eat donuts. Okay. Uh, I can't say that. My brain, the only thing it's going to hear is donuts. And then it's going to, because of our filter systems, the only thing that we ever understand comes from our filters. So we have about 2 million bits of information come into our information systems every second, but we can only process 126 of those bits of information. So think of it as a 2 million pixel picture, bright and amazing, and you drop everything out but 126 of those pixels. And then for us to take any of that information and use it, it has to already be something that's inside of us. Even if it's so deep that we don't, recognize it, it's got to be something that's inside of us for the filters to pick it up. So that information that's coming is going to be changed, shifted, developed so that it makes sense to us. And that's why two people, two family members will sit together. I was in Alabama with my sister Mary while I was still in the military, and we were reviewing some of the experiences that we had had. And we were side by side and had two completely different experiences. But this is the reason, because our filters, which come from how we've dealt with situations, what we've believed, the conclusions we've made from the time we were born, much of this before we had cognitive memory, where we started remembering a lot of things. Those are the filters. And so sometimes if we get angry at somebody for something, there's something inside of us that's a part of us, or we could not relate to that situation at all. And sometimes when we get angry, we're just getting angry at ourselves because we are not even taking the situation in with our 126 bits of information. Because those 126 bits of information that we take in, they don't have to be accurate. They just have to agree with wherever we're coming from. And so these filters are really important. And what we feed the filters. So I went on into the military, and I'm working with these things. I'm wondering why do I have a self-esteem issue? I've had through that period of time for a long time, many decades, had a self-esteem issue. I'm thinking, okay, my parents love me. I love my parents. God loves me. I love God. Why do I have a self-esteem issue? And then, well, Kelly and I were just recently in Las Vegas at the beginning of this whole COVID-19 thing. We were down there being trained in neurolinguistic programming and hypnosis and also timeline therapy. And we got to work on a lot of things and some amazing training, and the training continues. But I learned that I had fear, which was going back to when I was born, and I almost died. I knew I had almost died, and that I came very, very close to dying. But I believe what happened is that my parents or somebody was really worried about me and just kind of freaking out. And I picked that up because we're born, we're just sponges, and we're trying to figure out what's going on. And we just pick everything up. Well, that fear was like a black thread tied through every decision I made throughout my life. It was a part of it. And when through timeline therapy, we pulled that thread out and removed that fear from my life, it was like alternate reality, because hundreds and hundreds of decisions that I'd made were now different, as if I hadn't have made them without any of that, as if I hadn't have made them with any fear. And so there's things that we can do. There's things that we can do, beginning with coming to understand that there are things we can do. When I was first in the Navy, and I was always reading books, doing different things, trying to work on my self-esteem and my confidence. And I was in the military, about 27 years old, and I was reading a book, I'm Okay, You're Okay. Great book. And I say to myself, I'm okay. And my unconscious says, no, you're not. I'm okay. No, you're not. I couldn't argue with it. I didn't even know where it was coming from, except that it was inside of me, so it must be part of me. And so when we make a decision and something argues with it, it's our filters. It's those filters which all information has to come from, be something that we recognize so that we can work with it, and then that we can do something about it. So it was a long process, and I finally, well, after 4 years, I'd had enough. I got out of the military. I'm doing sales. I'm feeling like a loser, and that I'm just not getting it well. And then I meet a lady in Ogden, Utah, who is a maturation specialist, a hypnotherapist. And we worked with one issue from my childhood. And it was an issue of kind of a little feeling of abandonment. My parents were wonderful, but what kids think, you never know. Love your kids. They've got crazy thoughts going through their head. And if they're acting out, it's because of these issues. We have to see the world through our filters. So I went through this hypnotherapy, and we dealt with an issue, and we reframed my beliefs to things that were absolutely true, because I knew my parents loved me. And if they knew I was having an issue, they would have jumped right in and taken care of it. Well, I went right back into the military afterwards and did 16 years, and it had a big impact on me. But it didn't touch this stuff with the fear. I didn't even know. The longer I went, I thought I was doing great. But after we started working with timeline therapy and clearing some of these things out, and I got lots to go, but we've done so much, and it's had such an impact on my life. So there's great things we can do with hypnotherapy and in working with issues and things like that. And timeline therapy and neurolinguistic programming are so important for readjusting those filters. So anyways, today Kelly and I were going out and putting our kayaks in the water for the first time. The waves were huge. They were like big, but we got out there in the water, got them christened for the year, and we were listening to we were listening to we were listening to Earl Nightingale, and oh my goodness, there were so many things that I now understand what he was talking about. It was huge. My little sister said something about not having my glasses. That's one of the things that changed. Is I've worn my glasses every day since I was 8 years old. But after I started going through these things, I found that 80% of the time I don't need them. It was a crutch based on those filters. I'm eating hot food, spicy food, which my wife loves because she's always loved them, and I've always been bark, 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 bark. And so, will you pass the spicy hot sauce, please? Yeah, so things change as our filters change, as we change. And so I just wanted to share that today and hopefully pour a little bit of sunshine wherever you are with the isolation and all of this stuff. It's very important that we are not stressed, because stress lowers our immune system. So be at peace. Those 9,000 thoughts you have a day, think about what you want. Don't be thinking about what you don't want. Okay, take care. Bless y'all.